All right, so it looks like we are good to go. So it says the first question is, what does BzzAgent do? Um, what need is being met? So what is it that what service or product do they offer?
It's a marketing company, right? And so they contract with clients and try to find their specific target group. Um, and then they have buzz agents all over that sign up for the project that they put out, and then they get the product mailed to them, and they get to try it out, and then they just talk to people around them about it whenever an opportunity presents itself, right?
Yeah. So it's a word of mouth advertising agency, and I actually went and signed up for it after reading the case just because I was curious about it. And so when you sign up, then they have a bunch of surveys that you answer, so that they can get a better actual picture of who you are and what your demographics are, so that they can target it specifically for the customers that their clients are looking for. So they can target you specifically to those demographics or those regions or those interests. So they and then you basically try the product and then share it with your friends, creating buzz for the product, as the buzz agent states.
That's cool. So have you received any, like, if you have any projects that you get to
Not
try
yet.
out?
They sent me one that's basically like a tutorial to learn how it all works. I just haven't had a chance to do that yet. So,
That's cool.
but they said once you do that, then it will raise your points, and the more points you have, then so you have to do surveys and you have to do like their tutorials and stuff like that to get enough points to qualify to do actual trials or whatever it is. So.
Okay. And they
So
don't pay you. It's just you just get to try the product, right?
yeah, and then you get points. So the more products you do, the more points you get. And then you can, I guess, use those points to purchase other products that they have available. So they have like a little shop of products that are donated by the companies that they work with. So if you gain enough points, then you can actually go in and buy stuff through that as well.
Cool.
So what about product market fit? Have they demonstrated demand they can profitably serve?
I think I understand the first question, but there's plenty of demand is what I got from the case.
Yeah,
It's a growing market and it's profitable for them and the client that they're working with.
Yeah, so from what I was able to see from the case, it does seem like there is a good product market fit. They do have a good understanding of who their market is, and they have worked in that industry for years and have created a product that really taps into the word of mouth advertising market, which is the biggest, most trusted type of advertising.
Mm-hmm.
So I think they really do have that product market fit figured out. And I think they have demonstrated that they do have demand. They have quite a few companies. And if you go in and I think look at the company list that they have now, it's just crazy the amount of companies that they do this for. So so they really do have, in my opinion, they really do have that demand. And it really does show, especially from the exhibits that it showed in the case and the clients that they already had on board.
Yeah, I thought the same thing. I think that goes into the next question: what makes them successful is the fact that they have been able to tap into that word of mouth market and be successful with it.
Yeah, and what stood out to me was the fact that basically all of the people that are within that company have dealt with word of mouth advertising. So they really are experienced with it. They understand it. They know it. And I think that's another part of what makes them so successful is because they're all experienced and understand the word of mouth market.
Yeah. I was surprised with how much they charged their clients for this service. I thought it was crazy.
Yeah, and I think it
Over
a lot of ways.
$200,000.
Yeah, in a lot of ways, it goes back to did you? I'm trying to remember. The class I took last semester was launching a new venture, and it was with the business model canvas. So you had the different blocks, and you had to validate all of the different blocks in your business model canvas. So to me, this kind of also goes back to that, because they're testing it with real people too, and getting their feedback, as well as getting that word of mouth advertising. Because one of the biggest and hardest parts to do is get the early adopters that will try your product before anybody else. So they're kind of getting both out of the same thing. They're validating it by having people use it and getting their feedback, but then they're also getting early adopters, people that talk about their product and really build buzz about their product. So in a way, it really fulfills both needs of an early company too.
Yeah, I agree. And I agree with what you said before too about how the word of mouth market is most trusted. And, of course, any other advertising.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was one of the things we talked about in my marketing class that I took last semester as well, is you can construct the best advertising campaign and the most perfect taglines and everything else, but they're not going to be as trusted as somebody trying it and telling their friends, because they know that you created that and you're trying to make your product look the best that it can. So they don't trust that as much as they trust somebody that's actually used the product, that doesn't have interest in the actual product.
Yeah.
All right.
So I should fill out the case.
Discuss Table A and Exhibit 5. Let me go back and open the case.
On Exhibit 5, but I can't see Table A.
Table A is on page 5. So basically from that, it's saying that their net profit margin is $55,000. So so they get $220,000 from their clients. Then they have all of their direct costs, so the creative costs, the copy, printing, shipping, and all of those costs equal $65,000. And then after their costs of staff and operating expenses, their
profit is 55,000.
Yeah, the profit's 55,000. All right, so let's go down. And it was Exhibit 5?
Yeah. I hate how they're always sideways.
Yeah. I was able, if you have it up in the browser at the very top, there is a rotate button that you can rotate it. But then it, of course, rotates everything. So if you have to go to a different page, then everything else is rotated funny. But so it looks like their total assets at the end of September 2005 are 3,763,000. Then they're forecasting by 2006, the end of 2006, to have assets of 7.5 million.
That's a pretty big jump.
Yeah, that's basically $4 million worth of assets in 2 years, basically. Or no, just over a year.
Yeah, that's pretty high forecast.
And then their total liabilities, it looks like at the end of September, they had 2 million in current liability or total liabilities. And then so it looks like at the end of September 2005, they had $1.5 million of operating income and a 27.75% profit or operating margin.
Okay, yeah, I see that.
And it looks like their net income was 879,000.
And then they're projecting 3.1 million.
Yeah. So I'm just curious.
So are we on number 4?
Yeah, I was just looking to see what kind of, based on their projections, I was wondering what kind of profit or revenue they're expecting to gain. So they're expecting to go $1,200,000. Yeah, I was just looking to see what they're projecting their growth at.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, total revenue. It would help if I were looking at the right line. All right, so let me pull this up. Yeah, they're expecting quite a growth. Did you look at the revenue from the end of 2005 to what they're forecasting the end of 2006?
Yeah, they're forecasting like 4.4 million.
Well, the actual revenue. So right now they're saying that their revenue is 5,204,000, and they're projecting it to be almost 20 million by the end of 2006.
Yeah, I see that. I was looking at cost of revenue each.
Yeah, that's what I was looking at first too.
Yeah, that's huge. I know it seems like it's a little optimistic.
Yeah.
So would the growth rate be
So it would be
like 380%?
Yep.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's what I got. 300 and almost 80%.
Yeah, if you rounded, it's 80.
They're expecting quite the growth.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense. Leading into number 4, the next question, why they're raising money now, I think, is to try to accelerate to meet that growth, you know?
Yep.
Because I think they could succeed as a company without this, but I don't think they could grow that fast on their own.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really just to accelerate growth. All right. So then let's go back to the questions. So it says, can they succeed without venture capital funds? So I think we just answered that. Yeah, I'm pretty sure they could succeed. They just can't grow as fast as they're wanting to grow.
Yeah.
And then it says, what role does timing play in this decision? And so I think another part of that is they're trying to get ahead of the copycats. So there were a lot of other copycats that were kind of jumping into the market, and they're wanting to accelerate their growth and get ahead before all of these other copycats get traction. Because if they can expand and grow and reach their goals before these copycats really catch any traction at all, then they get the majority market share.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree because it discussed the different copycats, but they were all smaller.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that makes sense that they would want to do that much quicker.
So how much money does BzzAgent need? So we'll go back to case studies. So it looks like
It said that they desired to raise 7.5 million to 12.5 million, but are open to increasing that number. So quite a bit of money.
Yeah, I was just looking to see if there was anything in the case of actually how much they actually needed, but I think, or in those tables that would give us an idea of actually how much they needed. But I think, yeah, and in all of the stuff we did, they were basing it off of 10 million basically. But yeah, so to accelerate their growth, they need at least 7 million, right? Isn't that what the case actually said?
Yeah, I was just reading like the capital requirements at the bottom. I think it was like the letter to the venture capitalist. It just says 7.5 million to 12.5 million. On page 21.
And where does it say that?
On page 21, under the capital requirement heading,
Oh, there it
in the
is.
second paragraph.
Yeah. Yeah, so based on that, they need at least, they're hoping to get at least 7.5 million.
Yeah.
All right, so it says open the spreadsheet and then compare. Let me look. So pull this open. So it says compare the valuation for the $15 million valuation with a $15 million investment. So and that's on the capitalization table step 4. So at that, the valuation of the company, the total valuation would be $65,635,000. Where compared to the term sheet that BzzAgent had of $50 million.
Okay, yeah. Yeah. Okay.
So it says using the spreadsheet.
Undervaluing the company.
Yeah. User spreadsheet, discuss the math you use to calculate your answer on the tab entitled 2 VC requirements. So the math here is just the basic future. I think it's the future value really is what it turns out to be.
What step is this?
This is 6. So basically what we're doing is we're taking 1 times the percentage, or 1 times the target rate of return, and then we're multiplying that by the actual investment, and that tells us what the value of the shares would be at the exit. And then the total value is the target rate of return divided by the series of ownership. And then the implied revenue was the, let's see, that was the value at exit divided by the exit revenue multiplier. And then it looks like, so the required rate of return, that's the other one that this one's I think this one is actually the future value formula. So it's the, so basically what it is it's the implied revenue divided by the current revenue, and then you divide, or to the power of 1 divided by 5 minus 1, which is the interest rate, or the number of periods for the investment. So we know it's 5 years.
Oh, okay, yeah. How did you get the value of investor share at exit? This is the page that I had a hard time on.
Yeah, this one, I got the majority of this one. So value of investor share at exit. So that's one that I did have. I had to look up the formula just because I couldn't figure it out completely on my own. But that's just an interest formula. So it's you're wanting to see what your rate of return is. So you're taking, or what the value is. So what you're doing is you're taking the actual investment, which is $15 million, or sell F9, and then you're multiplying that by 1 plus the target rate of return. So it would, if you're doing it in Excel, it would be F9 times parentheses 1 plus F11 close parentheses.
Okay.
And then that's going to be to the 5th power. So that's the little caret. And then 5, because you're talking, again, a 5-year investment.
Okay, yeah, so it's 55,693,950.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that page,
And then did you
good.
get the value of BzzAgent at the exit?
No, I didn't get that one either.
Okay, so that one I was able to figure that one out on my own. So what you're doing then is you're taking F13. So you would, if you're doing the formulas in Excel, it would be equals F13 divided by F10. So what you're doing is you're dividing the value of the shares at exit, or value of investor shares at exit, and you're dividing that by the ownership to get the total value at exit.
Okay. And then, yeah, then that would make the implied revenue 96.
The implied revenue, yeah, is 96,536,180.
I got that one. How did you get the required revenue CAGR?
Okay, yeah, that one was complicated, and I had to look the formula up for that one too. It's just, I think that one, I'm trying to remember specifically. I think that one is your future value. But what it is basically is you're taking, so that one you're taking F17, which is your implied revenue at exit.
Yeah.
And you're dividing that by the current revenue of 2005. So that would be F19.
Okay.
So it would be equals parenthesis F17 divided by F19 close parenthesis.
Okay.
And then you're doing that to the power of parenthesis 1 divided by 5, because you're looking at each year what the required revenue would be. So you're just taking one of those 5 years. So it would be 1/5 minus 1.
Okay. Yeah, I got it.
67.7%.
Yeah, and adds a little check mark. That was, like, I took my accounting classes a while ago, but it was just, I wasn't expecting all the math, I guess. That's why.
Yeah, I do remember these from the accounting, but I also remember from them from Math 108 or whatever it was.
Yeah, I took that like 5 years ago.
Yeah, that was my very first semester. So for me, it was 4 years ago. But
yeah, I took a 2-year break in the middle because my husband and I were moving around a bunch and we started school back up a year ago. But so it's been a few years, so I guess it's good to review.
yeah.
So thanks for your help on those.
Yeah. And then so we went over the math, basically what it was. How did the growth expectation affect your view on which term sheet is more favorable to management? So which one did you think was more favorable?
Well, I was initially thinking that theirs was favorable because then they wouldn't have to pay the dividend to them, annually. But
Hmm. Yeah,
maybe
so
not.
I said Buzz Agent just because originally on that first page I said Buzz Agent because of the dividends, and the way that works is it said cumulative dividends to be paid at time of liquidation. So basically what it's saying is all of those dividends would accumulate because they're not actually paying out dividends every year.
Oh yeah.
So that 7% dividend would accumulate every single year until they sell it. So it would be the 7% every year for 5 years at least. If they're planning on having an exit strategy in 5 years, then it would build up 7% year one, 7% year two, 7% year three.
Yeah.
So that would build up, and that would have to be paid out to
Venture capital.
the venture capital at liquidation. So whether that be selling out to another company or the company going belly up, whatever it is, that liquidation, they have liquidation preference there. So that has to be paid out first before anybody else gets any money.
Yeah, I said the same in the beginning just because that 7% could grow. So
Yeah, and then after seeing the amount of growth that's required, because that was on that sheet number 2, it would be 67.7% compared to 59.1%. And so the thoughts I had there was it's definitely more appealing to take more money, but at the same time they don't need to take more money just to take more money either, because then it does put them into having to meet that required growth. So they have to meet at least 67.7% because of the terms that they're signing with the venture capitalist firm.
yeah.
Overall, I said that they should go with the BzzAgent term sheet rather than going with the other,
The venture capital.
rather than going with the other venture capitalists.
Yeah, I agree.
And then it says, what price per share of the venture capitalist term sheet, or why is the price per share of the venture capitalist term sheet very close to that of the VC term sheet, but the value of the current shareholders is different? And that one I put because the valuation of the company is higher. So obviously the actual value for the shareholders is going to be higher if the company is valued at a higher rate.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
All right. And then so overall, which did you think it was the BzzAgent term sheet that they should have gone with, or did you think at the end that it was the venture capitalist one?
No, I thought at the end they should still do the BzzAgent just because that 7% dividend I thought would be wise for them to try to avoid.
Yeah.
Like we learned that with the last company too, that if they were to sell, then they wouldn't have even profited any money, and that 7% just was compounded.
Yeah, and then on question 3, it says the BzzAgent term sheet described a planned distribution of approximately $3 million to management and current investors immediately prior to the transaction. What, in your opinion, is the merits of such a distribution from Balter's perspective and from the VC's perspective? So what I said there is, from Balter's perspective, this distribution is basically dividends to the investors as a return for the money they have currently invested. This can be justified because they are bringing on additional funds through venture capital financing round. For the venture capitalists, this could be seen, or this could be perceived as giving away $3 million in value just before they come on, which could be seen as a negative by venture capitalists. Personally, I think the distribution is good for those early investors to get a return on their investment.
Yeah. Are you in the B case?
No, I'm still on the other one. Yeah, I was on the class prep worksheet.
Okay. Okay. Sorry, I'm trying to navigate all of my tabs.
All right.
Well, I know you have to go in a couple minutes, so should we jump down to the B case?
Yeah. Have you read that yet?
No, I haven't. I'm just filling out the poll right now.
Okay. Yeah, and I did read it prior to us meeting.
Okay. All right, I'm just pulling it up.
All right. So do you have it open now?
Yeah, I have it open.
So I read this part of it. So basically what they're saying is they decided to go ahead and send out the auction basically to 11 companies that they picked based on certain criteria. And so they have specific ranking criteria. And it says, we are very interested in firms that could actually help the business grow. We didn't require the capital to scale, and we're really thinking of our investors as partners. So effort, domain expertise, and value-added potential were intended to cover that. Chemistry was important to ensure that we could work well together. This type of relationship is often like a marriage, so we wanted it to be a good one. Finally, Catchit was important as it would help us acquire top-tier talent and open the doors previously closed to us. Balter ranked the 11 firms on each of the criteria and sorted them by average ranking. The results are in table 1. So that basically covers what that first section was. And then this gives a breakdown of what they ranked each firm at.
Okay.
So of the 11 firms that met with BzzAgent, 4 clearly rose to the top. 2 firms from A and 2 firms, Firm A and Firm D, had great chemistry and fit, but did not bring the cachet of better known firms as Firm B and C. So Firm A was a recently established East Coast seed, an early stage investor founded by a team of experienced entrepreneurs and investors. The firm prided itself on being an active investor and bringing deep resources to its portfolio companies through the experience and perspective of former entrepreneurs that made up much of the investment team. The lead partner on the transaction at Firm A was extremely knowledgeable about the consumer technology industry and was enthusiastic about the deal, which would be one of the first investments as an investor. In keeping with the firm's mission, he promised to be very involved and as helpful as he could be. He had previously worked for one of the companies that the chairman founded and was known and trusted. Balter and Kavanaugh felt a strong connection with the general partners of Firm A and believed they would be helpful in managing through any difficult issues that arose at the board level, describing Firm A as the kindest of the firms they met with. Balter noted that Firm A had been honest, direct, and respectful of his time throughout their interactions, and he was hopeful that they would continue in that style if they were to invest. The one area Balter was not able to rate Firm A highly on was Cashit, partially due to the fact that it had been launched only a few years before and had yet to develop a credible track record. Firm B, while also fairly new entrant to the venture capital market, had quickly established itself as a major player with a string of early successes and was in the process of raising its fourth fund. Based in Boston, the firm brought significant name recognition and showed promise as an investor that could help Balter execute on his vision for the company. He was partially impressed by their emphasis on technology companies seeking to transform entire industries, although it was clear that BzzAgent would be somewhat outside the scope of their current industry's focus. Firm B had passed all of Balter's previous businesses, or had passed on Balter's previous businesses, and he was very hopeful that he could win their backing this time. Although the lead partner was very excited about the business, there were other partners who were concerned about the process and valuation of the business. A few months before the process started, the firm had approached BzzAgent with an unsolicited term sheet. The valuation offered had been approximately half of the one BzzAgent currently proposed. As an East Coast firm, there were many social and professional connections between the partners of the firm and the chairman. At one early stage meeting, one of the partners berated Kavanaugh about the highly unusual process he initiated. The partners also seemed distracted by their own fundraising efforts, and Balter worried about his ability to garner their attention in the future, as demands on time were not likely to improve after the closing of their latest fund. Despite the objections of some within the firm, however, Firm B had proven to be both enthusiastic and helpful in the fundraising process. Upon discovering that Balter had not yet completed a full set of financial projections, Firm B sent 2 of its employees to Balter's office to develop not only a financial forecast, but a full set of slides for him to present to Firm B's partners. The employees left only one slide titled, "What can Firm B do for you?" For Balter to complete on his own, which he forgot to do. Fortunately, when he got to that slide during the meeting, the partners embraced the question, using it as an opportunity to once again emphasize the energy and resources that they would put into making BzzAgent successful. Firm C, unlike firms A and B, which were both relatively new East Coast entrants to the VC industry, Firm C was a West Coast firm that had been in the business for over 20 years. The general partners of Firm C were recognized leaders in the industry who had been through several business cycles and had backed hundreds of startups and growth stage companies. They had been investors in some of the most successful companies in the last 10 years. The network developed through decades of experience provided Firm C with the ability to identify and engage the most well-suited resources for its portfolio companies. While Balter was impressed with Firm C, he wondered whether they truly understood the customer internet business. Firm C had recently invested in a Boston-based startup with significant traction but no modern monetization model. at a surprisingly high valuation. Although he liked the idea that they were willing to pay full price for deals that they liked, Balter worried that this might be an indication that they had poor understanding of the economics of the industry. Balter also wondered how much value Firm C could truly add to BzzAgent without an East Coast office. Most of the Firm C's resources were likely to be based in Silicon Valley, and the partners were unlikely to spend much time in Boston. In fact, one partner at Firm C went so far as to tell Balter that they would not have significant involvement outside the regularly scheduled board meetings. Balter wondered how much location should matter for Series A or Series B investors, and whether he could truly have the support he was looking for. Alternatively, he wondered whether a West Coast firm might bring different resources to the table that BzzAgent would be missing out on if it only invited East Coast firms into the financing round. Like Firm C, Firm D was a long-established VC with over 20 years of history, operating out of offices in both Boston and the Silicon Valley. Firm D had substantial reach within the technology community despite its extensive track record. Firm D maintained a fairly low profile in the VC community, perhaps limiting the cachet and value that they could bring in it as an investor. Firm D had been the most responsive firm throughout the process, going out of their way to offer advice and introductions to BzzAgent that came from their deep domain expertise. The firm put together a 60-page document outlining everything that they could do for BzzAgent and offered immediate help in putting together a full executive team, which they had already laid out in a proposed organizational chart. While Firm D seemed to be a strong fit on paper, Balter never felt that he quite connected with the lead partner on the deal. He wondered if his ranking system captured this properly and how much weight should be given to such early signals, particularly for relationships that would grow and evolve over time. So sitting down with the chairman to determine their next moves, Balter began discussing his ranking system and the relative merits of the different firms. Was his ranking system the first or the right approach? Had Balter used the right criteria? Now that they had identified their top 4 venture capitalist firms, how should they proceed? So
we would says as a group decide which offer you will take, if any. That's between those 4 mentioned in the case B, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I know I would think A. What were you thinking?
That's kind of what I was thinking as well, because they had the strongest connection with them, and they felt that it really would work well. And I think he's completely correct that this is like a marriage. They really need to have that strong connection, and while it will change and develop over time, if they don't have that connection and that chemistry right off the bat, it's going to be hard to develop that as they move along.
Yeah, I would agree. And even though Firm A is a newer company, they still, in the paragraph, it still said that they had proven themselves knowledgeable in the technology industry, and they were enthusiastic about it, which means they'd probably be pretty dedicated to it.
Yeah, and they also, the other part that really stood out to me is they knew the lead investor because he had worked with the chairman previously. So they already had a working relationship there, which is huge, especially in venture capitalists. And I think that they really were dedicated to helping them be successful. And that's really the biggest part of it. The biggest downfall was the fact that they didn't have a name that was built that they could use to get like higher caliber employees. But that was really the one thing.
Yeah, and I think all of their other strengths are more worth it than going with a more well-known and established company where you can't really connect with the people you're working with,
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I've worked in office. So at the school I work at, there's offices. There's 2 offices right now that they had employees that really didn't work together well. There was no chemistry between them. And basically both offices have basically imploded. Everybody has left. The one department, there's absolutely nobody left. Everybody quit because they couldn't work with one another.
Yeah.
And then the other office, the manager of the office was horrible to the people that worked with her. And so basically all of them stopped coming to work. They ended up firing her, but now there's no direction in the office because they don't have a manager at this point because they fired her because she wasn't working well with everybody. And I've just seen the downward spiral that these offices have taken because they didn't have that working relationship or that chemistry.
Yeah.
And I think that that's one of the most important parts of this is it's doomed for failure if you can't work with those people.
Yeah, I agree.
All right. So do you want to do the Word document and then I'll send out this video to everybody?
Yeah, that's fine. And in that Word document, I'll just make it like a paragraph or something about just how you go with A and the importance, like what we talked about, the importance of the working relationship and everything. So yeah, I'll submit that.
All right. So in conclusion, on the first part of before we got to case B, on case A, we both felt that the best option would be to go with the BzzAgent term sheet because the venture capitalists, the 7% really, we didn't like the 7% dividend that they were wanting, as well as it diluted their shares with the amount of shares that they actually had. Even though the valuation was higher, the actual percentage that they owned would be lower, and they would have to grow at a much higher rate to be able to provide the return on investment that the venture capitalists needed if you went with the VC term sheet. So we both felt that the best option would be to go with the BzzAgent term sheet. And then after reading the BzzAgent Case B, we both felt that the best option would be to go with venture capitalist firm A because they had that close working relationship. They did have proven success, even though they weren't a big name. They hadn't really broken into it. And while this was really one of their first big investments, they did have that working relationship, and they had worked with the lead partner on that previously, and so that's why we felt that the in case B that would have been the best option.
Sounds great. I agree.
All right, so I'll go ahead and stop the broadcast, and then I will send that out tonight, and then we